and they all said, there's no way you're getting that money back. They all said that.
Hi everyone, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about everything having to do with psychology, manifesting, and the law of attraction. Today, I have an awesome success story for you by one of my really great friends, Shveta. She's joining us here today. Hi, Shveta.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
So today, she's going to be sharing with us an unbelievable success story that she's had using Neville Goddard's technique of revision. And it's how she actually undid a scam of $1.5 million that happened to someone within her close circle. And she's going to be telling us the story because it's really unbelievable. The reason I want to share this story with you guys today is because actually I was speaking to Shveta throughout this entire process as this was unfolding, being there for her and kind of listening to this whole story. And it's truly an unbelievable example of revision. And as you guys know, I'm trying to always bring you guys new and amazing, interesting success stories to motivate you on your manifestation journey. So Shveta, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's so true. You were there for me during this intense experience that I went through. I had a couple of mentors I was reaching out to, which you were one of them. And it was really, while I was going through it, it was really difficult. But now this is one of the stories that I look back on in my conscious manifestation journey as having taught me the most. So a small, tiny correction. It was 1.2 million.
Sorry.
But still quite a sum. But yeah, I'd love to share my story. So let me know what you want to know.
So absolutely, first of all, I kind of just want to set the groundwork so that people can understand what actually did happen. And so if you could actually start with the general basis of what happened with this money, how did it get taken away? How did it come back? Give us the details of how it went.
So my loved one and I, we're very, very close. They're my family member. And this person is one of the most incredibly confident, capable people I know. And so I've always felt like, this person can manage any kind of problem there is. And so when I was sitting at my desk, I heard a wail. This was about May of last year. I heard a wail from this family member in a tone I hadn't heard in a really long time. So even right at the moment, I knew something was wrong.
She was emotionally distressed, right? Okay.
Absolutely. Emotionally distressed. And I just knew it was a big deal. I knew something had to be wrong. So when I said, hey, what's going on? And they were like, well, I have just been scammed from $1.2 million.
Wow.
So what ended up happening is they work for a nonprofit organization that does all kinds of wonderful work for people in the community in the city that I live in. And one of the vendors that my family member had been engaging with had apparently sent her an email and said, hey, the money that you're supposed to owe us, do you mind sending it over to a new account, a new banking account? And at that time, my loved one had just responded and said, no problem. I will change up the banking information. The email looked legit. And off she went, changing the to address of where the money coming from the loved one's organization was going. Essentially what it meant is that there was a social engineering scam. It's one of the biggest scams that happens, at least in North America, where someone will go into an organization's database and steal all kinds of the conversations, email database, and steal all kinds of the conversations that are already happening. The scam was really interesting in that they made an email that looked absolutely identical to the vendor's email, and they just were almost continuing on a conversation that had been bypassed. It was quite ingenious and in the evil it was.
So they really just snuck in there, snuck in to the regular transactions that normally occur between your loved one's organization and the normal vendor. And they just intercepted that to kind of get the money, basically, right? And get
absolutely.
Transfer. Wow.
Yeah, they were like, hey, we moved to a different bank. Here's the information. Do you mind setting it up so that this bank account gets the money that you owe us rather than this bank account? And the thing is that's interesting is that this is all the type of mistake that this loved one would make. And so it was a weird experience to hear, her say that this was going on and she was devastated. And of course, I didn't understand the nitty gritty of what was going on. I don't know her vendor relationships. I don't understand the banking. All I knew is that I'm a Neville Goddard student.
Mhm.
And I know imagination creates reality. She says things have been, that her company got scammed out of $1.2 million. I know that there are people who need that money in the community that would benefit from it. And I just knew there was a newfound desire within me to get that money back, right? To get that money back for my loved one and have them, I just knew that there was a way out of this.
How are you feeling during this entire process? Like personally, like what was going through your head when you found out of this situation? I know so many of my own clients and so many of my own viewers, when they go through something like that, that is quite emotionally charged, right? It's very easy to throw us off, using manifestation as the path towards the solution, right? The more emotionally charged
Yeah.
something is, the more people want to like do things in the 3D to try and solve the situation.
I think part of it is that in this situation, I had no 3D skills to speak of to be able to help my loved one. And
Interesting.
so it was almost like, oh, crap. Because what had happened was, as soon as my family member had learned that this has happened, they had a lot of connections, right? So they did everything they could with the bank, to try to retract that transfer with their connections in different banking industries. Because my loved one is a very well networked person that knew C-level executives at all the major banks in the country that I live in, Canada. So
Wow.
she was well versed in this, and they all said, "There's no way you're getting that money back." They all said that literally. I remember because while I was saying you're going to get the money back, don't worry. Like I was trying to calm this person down. I was trying to calm her down.
I
But
actually remember this. I remember, so the way that I remember the story unfolding is that like there was kind of like two phases. There was the first phase where like, they were like, oh, okay, maybe there was something that they can do. They started talking, right? Wasn't it to see if there was ways to get this money back the conventional way through a banking system. And then the phase two, when, it came back that this would just not be
mhm.
possible, right?
Yeah, it was interesting because the 3D got worse. And this was a while ago, but I had written it all down because while this was happening, I knew my mental diet was important. I knew it was important to, like, if this was going to be a success story, I kind of wanted to write it all down and keep the dates going. And so I have a lot of notes from that time that allow me to see just how bad the 3D really was at that time. And what was going on was, yes, there was a little bit of hope in the beginning, but every time that hope kept getting dashed. For example, we learned from C-level executives in different banks that this type of scam happens all the time and the money goes away in minutes. Meanwhile, my family member had sent off that money many weeks ago.
Wow.
So while there was a chance that would have been, if you did it in the same day or within an hour, but my family member only learned about this when the vendor said, "Hey, you never gave us the money." So it was too late. Even if there had been, according to 3D anyway, it was too late according to 3D that she could get the money back for her organization.
And that's actually a great distinction. This is what I consider the middle or the opposite. When my clients are freaking out about the opposite, or when things just look like there's absolutely no way that something can come to fruition. This is basically the stage. And we're talking about a lot of money here. We're talking about, a large for $1.2 million. This is not like, $100 or even a couple $100,000. It's over $1 million. So,
Yeah.
that is a situation that in the 3D looks extremely challenging. And yet
Oh yeah.
that's what we would think, with the logical mind, that this sum of money could never come back. The scammers know what they're doing. The bank has no recourse in this situation. So
It was
I can
intense.
only imagine really what you were, I mean, we talked, but
Yeah. No, it was hard because this is a person I love that is
yes.
crying, that is devastated, that is worried about the people that they serve in this organization and things like that. So emotionally, it was incredibly difficult to see this loved one cry and everything. But there was a point in which, so of course, I started using the techniques. So what I mean by that is I would hear the loved one telling me, "Oh, the money came back. The money came back." I did all kinds of different things. I would, but it was in the very beginning a little frantic because I was just trying to throw different techniques on the wall to make them stick. And as things were getting worse, I realized, okay, it's about calming the self and sticking to a story that makes sense to me. And at this point in my sort of Neville exploration, I had done a lot of revision and I had been really excited about the revision, the particular results I had gotten from revision. Oops.
Yes.
So because I loved revision, I decided to rehear this loved one say something else entirely. So I found myself at the same desk in my imagination. Instead of hearing a cry from my loved one, I heard like a an extremely happy, jubilant exclamation of happiness that they received that amount of money. And so I kept hearing that. I kept hearing them say, "Oh, we got the money," and things like that. I would, let's say that what ended up happening was folks that she had thought had her back.
Yes.
Let's say, different banking managers and different folks that she had assigned tasks to get, this sorted. They didn't do anything. So she had
they
a
weren't
banking.
acting on what they were supposed to do, right?
They weren't doing anything. So what had happened was she had called the bank that the money had gone from and said, "Hey, do you mind trying to get the money back? Do you mind canceling the transfer? Because it's such a big sum of money that they don't do it right away. Not like an e-transfer from your bank account to another account." She knew they wouldn't do it right away, or there must be something. And this individual
took cash. I mean, it's a cash transaction. So cash is, it's not like a credit transaction that can be reversed. Once something is wired in a cash transaction, usually the way that I've seen it in businesses, it's, that's the end of the transaction,
End of the transaction. And even with this level of money, this amount of money, when maybe she just thought maybe there's a way that we can get it back or put a stop on it, put a hold on it. What ended up happening was that bank manager took the day off the next day and didn't even think to put any of those actions into getting the recourse done and getting things going for my loved one. And so here she is crying again, saying, "Oh, the one small chance we might have had, this fool isn't even doing what they need to do to get my money back." So essentially, what does this mean? This means that no matter what 3D area we looked at, no matter what 3D recourse we were trying to take to fix the situation, none of it was working. Everything was saying, this is impossible. And I remember the heartbreak on this incredible loved one's face. And that actually made me decide to ignore this person. So this whole time, let's say the first 3 or 4 days of this experience, I was consoling my loved one. I was saying, everything's going to be fine. I was telling them about revision. I was telling them about imagination, and how that could get the money back. And I was imagining, I would go to my bed.
You were
and
essentially like playing into the 3D, right? You're playing in. I mean, even though it seems like, of course, you want to console that person, you want to make them feel better, and of course you can do that thing. But that was you giving more attention and energy and solidifying the 3D to be more and more real, as opposed to being like, fluid and possibly can change.
Absolutely. I when I was, feeling into this person crying and all that stuff, I was very tuned into the problem.
Yes.
All of a sudden, though, I kind of got that Abdullah vibe, Abdullah, Neville's teacher, who slammed the door in Neville's face when Neville said, "I have no money to go to Barbados." I saw his point of being rude. I saw his point of saying, "You know what, I ain't even listening to this," because that's exactly what I had to do. I remember a couple of times as this was going on, I heard that person crying and I would just walk away. I would hear them saying everything's fine. The money came back. I would revise everything that I heard.
All the details of the 3D reality. And I remember talking to you about this at the time, but yeah, you were revising all the details of the 3D reality, what was actually happening in front of you. You were basically doing instant revision. That would be considered instant revision, like really in the moment revising the situation as it's coming to pass, and then going into your imagination and creating a new scene, right?
Absolutely. It was like a process within me of deciding at every moment, because what would happen is I would decide we're going to get the money back, and then something would pop up in the 3D, or my emotions would come up, or I would think, whoa, has this ever happened before? Like, has money even come back before? We heard from the C-level executives that it never comes back when this type of scam goes on. So like, as soon as that kind of mentality started kicking in, I decided to go, nope, I'm like Abdullah, I'm living in the end. I already have the money back. We already have the money back. And I just saw this loved one's face in happiness. I reheard them say everything negative they were saying. I reheard them saying the exact opposite. And then less than a week later, and it's so funny because I had been doing such good imaginal work. I'm talking about revising everything the loved one said.
Oh,
I'm
and you
also
really
talking
were. I
about,
remember you were so diligent about it and you stayed on it no matter what was happening. You did not succumb to what the 3D circumstances were. Even
no,
emotionally, when you were like a little bit challenged, you really picked yourself up and
yeah,
put yourself back on that course.
absolutely. It's because there was no other choice in a way.
Yes.
And because I also felt like if this is an opportunity, because I've been in this journey for a while, so I could see this as an opportunity to step into my power. I had a couple of other perspectives that allowed me to see this differently. So it helped. I wouldn't say I felt good though, and I think that's important for your viewers to know that even though I was imagining the end and I was making the decision at every given moment to know that the money was coming back and that everything would be fine. I practiced all kinds of different things like gratefulness, all that good stuff. I was still miserable. So it's not that your emotions will hold you back from manifesting. It's about contextualizing those emotions and knowing they're part of your human you, soothing yourself, all that good stuff. Because I was depressed. I was very upset that my loved one was crying.
Just
And
to say like a little bit about that, just for the viewers, my
yeah,
personal philosophy on, emotion versus repetition, right? Like a lot of people who are like all law of assumption, they're like, you just need to repeat. You don't need emotion. You just need to repeat. And they're both true. I mean, psychology has shown us this. Neuroscience has shown us that emotional saliency impresses on the subconscious mind, and so does repetition. You can do
absolutely.
something a million times that you don't care about, and it will absolutely impress on your subconscious mind, and you'll just know how to do that task, whether you like it, don't like it, or whatever. And the same thing with things that are highly emotionally salient, they also impress on the subconscious. So,
Yes.
exactly, it's not that not being able to be in the right emotional state won't allow it to manifest. That is not the case. It's just as you
Yeah.
said.
Exactly. And I think part of it was I wasn't making more out of my emotions than what they were. I mean, I just knew that it would make me feel sad. I'm not a monster. If my loved one is crying and depressed and that's not their typical self, especially if my loved one is devastated and they don't even deserve it, I didn't make it more than what it had to be. Whatever emotions I had, I let them be. So I didn't
You
egg
kept
them
it
on.
confined. Yes.
Yeah, I think that your emotions create, don't get me wrong, but it's one of those things where your emotions are still at the mercy of who you claim yourself to be, like your decision of who you identify yourself as. Because while I was crying, I would have moments of tearing, but then I would, part of what I like to do is a solid mental diet when I'm going through crises, especially when I'm going through a crisis like this. I love to read Neville, Florence Scovel Shinn, other words that allow me to think nutritious thoughts. Because
Yes.
what happens is if you're in a crisis, if you generally think all kinds of different thoughts and you're not in control, I think it's a good idea, a good best practice to sort of anchor your thoughts into a good book that allows you to keep yourself focused so you're not going off the deep end. I think that really helped as
And
well.
actually, that was going to be one of my questions. What really helped you to stay? Because a lot of people ask, like, what helps you to stay in that, in that kind of knowing space, or in that in the feeling of the end result, okay, or the knowing of the end result. Um, so you basically just answered that, that you found words that allow you basically to know that you're a creator and that you do have control over this, and you affirm through the difficult situation. Okay, that even
Absolutely.
if it
Yeah.
looked opposite, you affirmed through that difficult situation. You didn't allow your mind to determine that that was the outcome.
I didn't, and I think part of that was there was no choice. I
Yes.
have no banking connections. I have zero knowledge of the industry. And in this situation, that actually helped me. Not knowing
Yes.
all the details of all the, crazy high statistics of crime and, the crazy high statistics of money coming back. Not knowing that helped me in this situation. Ignorance is bliss in this situation
And
because
actually, the next success story that I'm going to put out is about how I basically manifested getting into music school without any qualifications that would have allowed me to get into music school. And part of what allowed me to do that is exactly what you're describing right now. Is I didn't really have any knowledge that I wasn't good enough. So I'll be sharing that in the next video about it. And yes, sometimes not having another way makes you find the way. you know.
it's true. There was no other choice. I just knew Neville had my back. Neville would believe in this. I knew that Abdullah would believe in this. And I also will say that I had coaches and mentors. without the coaches in this community that allowed me to believe in my power, I would not have been able to persist. And I mean, I'm just saying that because I needed my coaches and mentors, and I had friends in the community. I had coaches that were my friends in the community. So I had a good network, thank goodness, and I'm grateful for them, where I could message and be like, my loved one is devastated right now and I can't handle this. What do I do? A 3-word sentence saying, ignore, revise, and persist was all I needed in that moment. And it was me that had to do the work. But without them, I mean, I would be listening to the C-level executive at the other bank that said it couldn't happen.
It's not possible. Yes.
So essentially, I was in an interesting position where the whole world is telling me and my loved one, no way you're going to get this money back. Make your peace with it. All I asked my loved one, by the way, to do is make a gratefulness list, a gratitude list. Other than that, I did not ask them to do any imaginal work or anything.
A lot of people also ask, can you manifest for other people? And this is actually something that I've done quite a few times in my life for my own loved ones in my life. And I have manifested quite a lot of things that previously I thought were impossible or not possible. And as I shifted my my belief system on that, that actually came to fruition. So this is a great example actually of how you also did manifest for someone else. And I think that that's very important to note, that that is something that is talked about a lot in the Neville community.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I had questions in the moment where I was like, does, my loved one need to revise too? Do they need to imagine too? Because they were crying and devastated and knew very little about Neville. So it's not like they were skilled enough or, capable in that moment to start imagining and stuff. And I was just a little concerned. Are they going to undo all the work I'm doing, But the thing is that that's not how it works. We're all so deeply interconnected by the imagination and subconscious that when I shift, everyone and everything that I could possibly experience in my outer reality also has to shift. So I knew, and I had mentors telling me, you're fine. You know what, we'll just imagine for your loved one. Don't even worry about it. And, if you want to comfort your loved one, that's fine, but don't engage with her. That was kind of the advice I got. And I've noticed that to be true in so many areas now. So yeah, my main things were, it was about a week of this experience. And my main things were, one, revising every time a new negative thing came up, or, when she was depressed and saying, hey, am I, what if I get fired over this? I can't even show my face in the community anymore. And like all these like depressing things that hurt me to hear. I just kept revising
rabbit hole of the spiral of the thoughts. Yeah.
Ugh. It was just I just did not like it. It was ugly and I hated hearing her talk like that. So I would either remove myself or absolutely revise it and hear them say the opposite. Say, I got so much money.
Yes.
So I would say 6 or 7 days after since this happened, I was strong on my mental diet. I kept persisting. And I also did, I used my favorite types of technology techniques. So for example, I would record imaginal prompts. I would record, hear her saying she got the money back. And then I would give a blank time. And in that moment, I would listen to it and I would imagine the imaginal hearing of them saying, I got the money back. I got the money back. I got the money back. So it was all kinds of different techniques. Just to ensure that I was living in the end of this money coming back and not allowing anything to step in the way of that. I woke up maybe like the 6th or 7th day after this had happened, and things were really depressing, It was really depressing, and I remember waking up feeling horrible. So I want to bring that up because I think sometimes we can feel like this is going to be like the most happy, amazing experience to manifest.
Or that you're going to expect it coming, because a lot of times I've seen manifestations unfold in a way people are like, oh, I'm going to see movement. It's going to be obvious that it's coming. No, it very often happens in a very unobvious way, or a very unexpected way.
It does. It absolutely does. And I woke up feeling kind of crummy. I had imagined for a week and I was like, what is going on? Like, are we going to get the money back? When am I going to hear about this? And I was like, nope, we're not going to question. I know. I remember this very clearly. I had woken up on my bed and I said, I know I'm the god of my reality. We have the money back. In fact, we're going to get more money for this organization. Everything is fine. And that's it. And I was almost like that's it. That's it. And I was like a brat about it almost.
Like, it is
not
done,
like so spiritual and it is done and that's it. Mm-hmm. So I walked to my desk And I hear my loved one, and it feels heavy in the house and depressing. And I hear my loved one, making coffee and is like sighing to herself. And then she goes to her home office. And then I'm like, where is this manifestation? Whatever, I'm okay. I hear them squeal and be like, oh my God, or whatever. And then they come out and they say everything I ever imagined them to say. We got the money back, every single penny of it. Everyone was shocked. The C-level executive friends that worked at other banks that knew about these scams were shocked. They were like, really? The bank manager that told her, hey, the money was able to come back from her bank, was like, this has never happened before. And there's all these emails that I look at here and there just to like remind myself that the 3D was saying that in every way that this made no sense for the money to come back, and somehow it came back. And there's a technical explanation that my loved one will explain as to how it came back, but I know what it was. It was the fact that I refused to believe that this ever happened. Mm-hmm. And today, it's funny that we're talking about the story today. It happened several months ago, like 7 or 8 months ago. But today, my loved one told me that they just got a $5 million grant. So all the work I did to revise and rehear something else, since then to now, it's all come pouring back.
Well, it's actually quite interesting because part of your revision or part of your mental scene was that they would get more money. So not only did you, and I've done that before for myself actually, and I had that come to fruition. So I know that can work quite well. But so yeah, you revised that the money would come back, and not only that they would get more money, and that's exactly what they had. They kept their job and they got more money.
Keep her job. There are so many more strengthened relationships that this loved one has with her boss. She has grown so much from this experience. And we have come a long way. I mean, she believes in a lot of these teachings more. I mean, there were so many benefits that came from it. Because I decided to stay in the end and ignore all the 3D elements, what ended up happening is this became the best thing that could have happened to me. Mm-hmm. The best thing that could have happened to, my loved one. Why? It showed us that there are miracles are possible. It showed us so much of the beauty of life. And don't get me wrong, it was one of the worst things that could have ever happened when it was going on. The fact that we were able to alchemize it was all thanks to living in the end. It's all thanks to the Imaginal work. And it gives us a little confidence that we can handle anything. And I think, the sort of muscles of being grateful while something horrible is happening, all that stuff are great skills.
And having patience through, or non-judgment through very challenging, very emotionally challenging experiences.
Oh.
And I think that that's part of what makes you able to manifest greater and greater things, is really exercising that muscle, of non-judgment and patience in the face of things that just look very, very complicated or difficult.
Absolutely. No, you're right. It's I think part of it is that we are, problem solving. Let's say you're a problem solver. What does that mean? You take the problem at face value, and because of the circumstances that you see, you come up with a solution that you think might work, and then you implement that solution, and then you see if it worked. The thing is, that's acknowledging and giving power to the problem. If we can remove our attention from it completely and reduce the power we're giving the problem, we don't have to think of the how, we just have to think of the end. And this was an awesome experience for me to remember that, and something that I really hold on to. And I have seen that since then to now, this loved one has been able to get millions of dollars for their nonprofit. They've been able to build great relationships with different stakeholders, because those stakeholders saw the resilience my loved one displayed during this experience.
Through such an intense thing. And I think that that's part of what manifesting really teaches us, is how to stay resilient through very challenging experiences, and knowing that you can still get your end, even if it looks like the complete opposite. Literally the complete opposite is happening in that moment. So not only did they get back the 1.2, they got another 5 million. So if you think about it, that's like $6.2 million, when it looked like at one point that there would be no job, that there would be literally nothing happening, right? So that is really phenomenal, and really just shows how the opposite is truly just the middle, subconscious. I consider like subconscious just blocks coming to the surface to be clear.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting too, because I asked my loved one, hey, are you as happy as you were sad when you lost the money? And they were like, oh, kinda. And it went to show me that we need to also enjoy the good, because when good things come, we want to, take the juice out of it and enjoy it. Instead, I think a lot of us, when something bad happens, we feel every bit of the bad feeling and the guilt and the everything. But when something good happens, we sort of like, oh, that's pretty good. And we don't enjoy it. So today, when she told me, hey, I got the $5 million grant, I was like dancing and I was so excited, and I really wanted to imprint that. So when good things happen, we want to imprint a wonderful thing happened today. Because when negative things happen, I know what happens in our minds. We really make it more powerful by identifying with it. So I think it's good to identify with our good things too. But yeah, it was one of the most wonderful ending of the story. And it made me very happy that we can talk about it here today. All I did was, no matter what I heard, no matter how high level they are, no matter how much the impossibilities weighed in against me, I just remembered this is an opportunity to prove everything that I'm learning. So I think if anyone's going through a crisis, that's the best lesson is this is an opportunity to alchemize it into something better. If something can be absolutely crappy and horrible, that exact contrast can be the opposite. You absolutely have that capacity to have the exact opposite. So,
and that's like the transmutation. To me, that's transmutation of energy, and just taking that situation and being able to turn it into something really amazing, and seeing how it's actually for your better. That's why they say everything is working out for your better. Everything is working out. The universe always has your back. All of those kinds of affirmations, because they really are true. If you can see it through that circumstance, you'll see it through to the end. And when you see it from the other side, it looks quite different than when you're standing in the middle of the storm,
Yeah, definitely. I also would say that part of the reason I think this happened was about 5 days before, I woke up to my loved one freaking out about this. I had written down, I am a stunning and abundant master manifester. Mm-hmm. Now, when I wrote that down, I wrote it over and over again. And maybe not, with the best assumptions at that time about what that could look like. And then literally had an opportunity to have a stunning and abundant manifesting experience 5 days later. And I felt that manifestation, and it reminded me, and affirming for that. So
it unpacked basically a lot of things within your subconscious beliefs about self-concept, and basically how you think the rules of the game work, how the world works. I mean, that is really a fabulous, fabulous point, because another thing that I truly believe is that, good and bad, when you take a moment and you see it as either good or bad, you're placing a judgment on that moment, because you can't know what is the outcome. You don't know how the outcome could actually be to your benefit. But if you judge it in the moment, you can place that judgment of good or bad, right? So it looked really terrible at the time, but it was actually fulfilling the bridge of incidences to bring you to the understanding that you have that ability, and you can have that kind of level of control over your own emotions and your own thoughts. So that's quite it's very powerful.
Yeah, definitely. You were one of my saviors during that time, because just knowing that someone is well versed in these things and has an understanding that can like having a mentor and a friend in that moment is really important. Additionally, I don't know if I could have gone through this if I was imagine I was the loved one that had gone through the $1.2 million loss or whatever. I feel like because there was this, it was like a perfect opportunity because I wasn't that tied to it. Yes. Because I had 1 degree of separation, it was the perfect opportunity to feel the master manifestation for me, and have a great opportunity. But it wasn't that I was tied to it. And so one of the things I will say is that the challenges that we have in our life are always opportunities to discover who we are, and it can be incredibly hard in the moment to remember that.
It's beautiful what you say. I just want to just interject one thing, because even in religion, they say something quite similar, that God will never give you more than you can handle. And the universe won't give you more than you can handle, literally, because your subconscious is the universe. So it will always throw up tests that are within the capability of your subconscious to clear. And so
that's so true. I love
you'll never get more than what you can handle, just enough to help you really grow to the next stage and the next level of what your desires are, right? Because the minute you set out an intention or a goal, then yes, the subconscious is going to maybe throw up a couple of blockades that you have from your past, because that desire is now out there. But once you learn to overcome those things, that's how you lead to growth and clear that path for the future. And then it just becomes your new normal. That just becomes who you are. The world just operates that way for you then on, and you don't even remember that it ever was different, you know.
You're right. It's a very personalized experience, ironically, and it's perfect for us. You know, there's a biblical saying that, you know, the God prepares the place. You know, he will prepare a place. That's something that Neville refers to a lot in his books, and that's exactly what happened. It was like a preparation of a place for me to feel that I am an abundant and stunning master manifester, and those lessons will stay with me forever. And when I look back at the loved one and I say, what was your best thing from 2020? And ironically, there was a few different manifestations we did together that were incredible from last year, but this was one of the top, because it's like, wow, this showed me anything is possible. And it showed me that, you know, my family and my work has my back. There were so many wonderful little side benefits to this experience.
Yeah, basically like side little things that came to fruition at the same time, I recall. And it's just beautiful. Like, to me, this is, you know, that's why I really want to share this story. It is, to me, really the epitome of so many different things, like so many different concepts that we've just discussed here, you know, and really gives that example in the story. So I really appreciate you coming on here and, you know, telling this to everybody on YouTube and for Instagram.
Thank you for caring enough to ask. Absolutely. You know, the lessons from this are, one, you can absolutely manifest for another person. There is no other. You're observing them, so they're actually within you.
True.
So, you know, if you feel like, that's why Neville always says, imagine wisely for someone else, imagine lovingly, imagine nobly, because regardless, we're putting people where they are in our realities. It's really weird and trippy, but never ever feel that, oh, that's their reality, I can't have an impact. It's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
And also it just taught me that if I make a decision, it doesn't matter that I have a negative emotion. Those emotions can be part and parcel of the experience. You know, if I didn't have a negative emotion, I might not even want it. Like, if I didn't feel bad for my loved one, then I wouldn't want to manifest it. So it can be part and parcel of it. We don't have to demonize them, but we don't want to give them more power than they are, than their worth.
Excellent point, that one too.
Yeah.
So those are kind of that rabbit hole of like the negative emotions, because that's when, you know, so many people are like, oh, I had a negative thought. Oh my God, I need to worry about that negative. No, it's okay. Accept the moment, accept the emotion, accept the thought, and move forward, because every moment is in fact a new moment to create a new reality. They are not attached the way we think that they are every moment. Every moment is actually separate, and you're able to like start fresh from that moment, you know.
Love it. Every moment is separate. Every moment is an opportunity to choose. So true. And then on top of that, you know, if you feel like the most loving thing you could ever do for someone else is remove them from the storyline that they're going. So it's in our regular culture, they tell us, oh, be a listening ear, allow them to vent, allow them to talk about their problems. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that. I'm saying as soon as you hear someone, they're unhappy where they are, shift right away. Hear them saying something different, because they're emanating from within us, and we have the power to be able to shift their perspective. And the interesting thing is, they'll have it by the time they get there, it's their story anyway. So it's not like you're like making it happen. They'll be like, oh no, this happened and that happened and this happened that made me realize my power. It's their story.
And it's very true what you say, because I remember even in my own past, before I really understood about law of attraction, when I was much younger, and manifesting and all of these fabulous techniques, you know, I realized I was holding a lot of people from my past in this kind of like in this, I don't know, standstill of time, you know, they are like this, that they are this like solidified, that's how they think, that's how they are, they're stubborn, they're whatever they are, they're difficult to deal with, or however I was thinking about them, or they always do this or they always do that, and not giving them the opportunity to change within my own world, because I was basically telling that story for them. And actually, as I changed the story, they changed. And it really is quite incredible. And I do recommend everybody, even if you, I don't know, stumbled on this video and you don't believe in manifesting or law of attraction, try it out. It's really, really unbelievable how if you change the storyline of what you expect of another, that actually will change in your life.
Yeah. And the more you do it, the more confident you get, it'll look much more natural. As we're explaining these techniques, it sounds weird.
Yes.
You know, when we hear everyone as you pushed out, and we hear that we can manifest different versions of people, all that starts to sound weird because we're thinking about it.
Yes.
When you keep practicing it, you'll see, oh, this is how I've been doing this whole time.
Right. And actually it unfolds in the most natural way that you don't ever even think about it. It's not strange in any way. It's just that we are analyzing it. We are thinking about it in a like we said, the thinking of, right? Not the being of. But when you're in the being of, and when you're in the experiencing of, you recognize that this is actually how most people get everything done in their life. If you look at the top performers in the world, like in sports, in anything, in public speaking, in any competitive field, this is what they are naturally doing. They reject any story of competition. They reject any story of like things not going in a certain way, and they keep retelling the story of where they wanted to go. And that is what creates a high performer at the top 1% of anything.
Yeah.
Is being able to do that.
For sure, because if they started listening to the statistics and the knowledge of the world and, here are the statistics for this type of people to be successful, they would never even try, because it's very discouraging when you hear about how little, percentage of people are successful. It takes removing yourself away from the current knowledge of the world and the statistics and saying, I decide my own success to do that. And that's why it is only a short amount of people, not because statistically it's possible that a small amount of people can be successful, but because it seems to be only a few people in our current world decide that, no, the only thing that's stopping me is me. Yes. And I think there's a renaissance to that idea. Yes, the renaissance to that. There is something to be said about rejecting any victim story anyone could give you and just saying, you know what, doesn't matter if the bank says it's not possible, doesn't matter if a C-level executive says it's not possible, doesn't matter if, and I also did this thing where I didn't start Googling any other similar stories.
That's what I think, sometimes we get too much knowledge. That's what I believe is too much knowledge, where it creates actually fear and doubt, and it's not supporting, your vision. Okay. It's not supporting your vision, because you can find everything in this world if you search and you dig enough, right?
Yeah.
At this point, I want to really just say thank you so much for being on this channel and sharing this story. I could literally talk to you for hours, and I'm sure we're going to do another video again soon about other topics, because it's just so fascinating. But we could talk for hours about all this stuff, because there's just so much to say and so many topics that we could delve into, and it's always great talking to you about it. And again, so thank you so much for
you're incredible. I love your perspectives. You have a sound, practical understanding of what it takes to live a high quality life of your dreams, and you have that right quality of right combination of qualities that I think make someone an excellent teacher and coach. So as someone who's been in this community, let's say for 2 to 3 years, I really appreciate your presence in it and the sort of brevity and intelligence you bring to the dialogue. So thank you so much.
That is a beautiful compliment. Thank you so much. And guys, if you haven't yet, make sure that you subscribe and you hit the bell notification so you can get updates on all the new videos all about manifesting, law of attraction, and psychology. And if you haven't yet, you can connect with me on Instagram. I'm going to put my handle down below. And if you guys want private coaching, of course, I always have private coaching. You can just see the description and you have my email over there. And I will see you guys in the next video.